we have to pay more for gas, or does that mean it's less? Oh, nice.
All right, we're back at it. Tuesday, October 1st, first day of the month. Hope y'all pay your rent today. Thank you, so, on the first show, they got the new guy back again. Second day in a row, solo mission. Appreciate y'all rocking with us here on A&F Sports Tonight, on YouTube, on PSN. Aaron Ladd here, a master of the buttons. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. All right. Here we go. Pack show today on A&F Sports Tonight. Aaron Ladd, October 1st, 2024. It's a Tuesday. We're talking game 162, Braves versus Mets. All the excitement that was that day, afternoon doubleheader as the Mets and the Braves both clinched. What a weird experience that was, right? With both teams celebrating champagne showers in the same clubhouse or in the same stadium. That was really weird. Despite that, we'll recap that and then, of course, look ahead to wild card game number 1 in San Diego. Braves versus Padres. We'll talk starting situation, who's starting. I'm sure you know by now. And we will recap all of those things. And we'll do a little over-under. Looking ahead to Thursday Night Football, the Falcons versus the Buccaneers. What can the Falcons do to kind of continue some of this positive momentum, especially on offense? Where does that put the offense headed into a critical stretch inside the division? Georgia Tech hosting an undefeated team in the Duke Blue Devils. We'll touch on them here from Brent Key. And then we'll talk about what's on my mind. That's in sports. I know yesterday it wasn't, but it is in sports. Let us know what you think. Chime in the comments. I'm checking the chat here. I'm checking social media. Got my tag up and my handle right now. The show is only big and important because we have you at home listening and rocking with us. So I want to know what y'all think as we go through A&F Sports Tonight for October 1st. First story. Maybe this is it. Nope, that is not it. This is it. Braves versus Mets, game 162. It took to the end, to the Braves to finally figure out where they were going to be, if they were going to be in at all. Diamondback faithful hoping that they would get swept and they would get in. Eventually, it's a 3-0 win, started by Grant Holmes, who found out 10 minutes before he was starting, according to general manager Alex Anthopoulos, that he was going to be the guy, the starter for Atlanta in this one. Valiantly, pitched valiantly in what was a quick start, as Atlanta was just trying to figure out how they could not only preserve their rotation for this game in the bullpen after playing a game earlier in the day, that back-and-forth 8-7 game against the Mets. Now they're figuring out how can they preserve things headed in to the wild card round potentially. Pulling up the box score here for game 162 between the Mets and the Braves. And let's be honest. It wasn't the A team. We know that. The Mets had already clinched earlier in the day. We know that they had already gotten what they came here for. In the words of Denzel Washington, I'm leaving here with something. The Mets had already left with what they came for. But specific to Grant Holmes, 4 innings pitched, 1 hit allowed, only 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. I mean, exactly what you wanted in this situation. And, of course, we're about to talk about wild card game number 1, but that's what you're hoping for in these, like, little pickle-type situations with pitchers who didn't know that they were going to be going on this big stage, this important stage. Grant Holmes does the job, and then it's a bullpen game from there. And I think that this is going to be a similar strategy that we see from the Braves in this wild card game number 1. One finishing thought on game 162, and really what was a crazy season for Atlanta, specific to the regular season. Because a lot of attention obviously is going to turn to the postseason now, but specific to the regular season, let's not overlook what this team was able to do. No Spencer Strider. No Ronald Acuna Jr. for a majority of the year. No Austin Riley. Brian Snicker's already said that he won't be back in time no matter how deep they go. The Braves playoff run this year, postseason run, will not include Austin Riley. This information from OptaStats, and I reposted this on X. Another reason why you should be rocking with us on X. This stat from OptaStats on X around the Braves' regular season run. No other MLB team has ever made the playoffs in a year where 3 of their opening day starters missed the final 35-plus regular season games on the injured list. That's Spencer Strider, who really didn't see his full potential. Ronald Acuna Jr., obviously the concerns around what his knee is going to be going forward, and then Austin Riley. And there were other injuries. Those weren't the only 3. But just don't take for granted what this team was able to do without those 3 players, still clinching their 7th straight postseason berth. And that was a lot of the sound that we heard in the clubhouse after the game. Bailey Burmaster had that on our show last night at 10. She was in the clubhouse with the champagne showers. Yeah, I understand that it's a quick turnaround to the wild card round, but it's never been done before with what this team was able to do. And surely it may impact how deep they're able to go as we can now transition into the next game on deck and what the Braves' next challenge is. Still injuries impacting it. Story number 2, still injuries impacting the Braves as they turn to the wild card round. They released their postseason or their wild card roster here on Tuesday ahead of the first game, 8:38 Eastern Time, first pitch. You know, we speculated yesterday that maybe there was some gamesmanship. Maybe maybe the Braves were being a little cheeky and they were saving Chris Sale. The back spasms were a little bit, maybe weren't as serious as they were leading on. And remember, it was weird because they were playing with where he was going to go in the rotation. Usually pitchers, bullpen starter, wherever, you don't like to mess with the flow. You don't like to mess with the mojo. If you pitch every 5 days, you want to pitch every 5 days. Chris Sale leading up, and this is at least the messaging we were getting from inside the Braves clubhouse. Oh, they're working alongside him to kind of line him up when they need him the most. In this wild card round, they won't have him. He's not on the roster. And I think there was even question marks around whether he traveled or not. Instead, it'll be A.J. Smith-Shawver going for the Braves in this one. A.J. Smith-Shawver going for the Braves in game number 1 against the Padres. Only started 1 game for Atlanta so far this year. But the clubhouse still sounds very confident in what he can bring in this best-of-3 series out in San Diego. Let's hear a little bit from Matt Olson. Matt Olson talked pre-game against the Padres in this one about A.J. Smith-Shawver and more. We'll listen to a little bit of Matt Olson here on ANF Sports tonight.
Well, I think he's a pretty level-headed guy, calm demeanor. You turn on the TV, you see his stuff, it stands out. He's hasn't had a ton of opportunity with us this year, but that's another guy that we feel confident getting on the mound, and we're ready to roll behind him.
With the back on the left.
Hey, Matt. Yesterday, Mike Schultz mentioned that he's a very different team that you guys will be facing since the last time you played. Just how different do you see this Padres team since mid-July?
I think they added a couple arms. Some guys that we've seen around before, but I think the main components are there. The team we faced in July series here. It's a really good team. There's no doubt what they did this year is no fluke by any means. They got a very solid roster, and we're looking forward to the competition.
Zach, down in the front on the right.
You mentioned AJ, just 21, making his second start of the year. Do you say, listen, man, just do your thing, take a deep breath. We, the offense, we got you. We'll do our thing.
For sure. It's always the best advice you can give a younger guy. This isn't. He's had plenty of starts. He knows what he needs to do to stay within himself. I talked about the stuff. It's not like he needs to go out there and throw harder or try to make breaking ball nasty or anything. It's already there. So for him, just dialing it back, making sure to get some breaths in and go out there and attack like he normally would.
So you heard from Matt Olson there. Gave you a little insight into what the guys think about this wild card game number 1 with A.J. Smith-Shawver going. We already know who the game 2 starter will be. There will be a game 2 no matter what. It's going to be Max Fried. So maybe Braves country feels a little bit more confident in an established starter, a guy who's had some postseason starts under his belt, a guy who's pitched well in the World Series. And there was kind of some talk after his final start at Truist. I mean, this guy, he could have had a complete game in that one. That was against the Royals, I believe, in game 2, where he was just one out shy of closing it out there. Max Fried goes in game 2. But my concerns, as we finish up kind of our Braves talk here, Braves-Padres in the wild card round, Braves clinched their spot in game 162 against the Mets. Still the offense, it feels like not consistent enough, especially with runners in scoring position. That's my big worry around the Braves headed into this matchup, into this series, into this wild card round in 2024. What offense are we getting from Atlanta? We heard from Matt Olson there, but he hasn't been his normal self. I'll leave it at that. Jorge Soler really hasn't been his normal self. He's been spotty. He's been inconsistent. Where's the offense coming from? Where are the runs coming from? Sean Murphy was an unlikely hero in that Royals series, and I believe so was Travis d'Arnaud. You can't count on unlikely heroes every time in and out. Somebody's got to be consistently on base. I love seeing small ball this time of year as well. Move runners over, station-to-station baseball. You don't have to swing for the fences every single time. My questions around the Braves in this series are all offensive, in addition to obviously the health factor and who's going to be starting for them, and potentially a game 3 here. Who do you go to in a game 3 if we get there? Obviously, much more talk about the Braves and the Padres as we continue. Well, let's get to story number 3 now. Story number 3. Looking ahead to prime time. Thursday Night Football, Falcons hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 3-1 Buccaneers, led by Baker Mayfield, who absolutely lit up the Philadelphia Eagles last week. Love giving injury reports, especially on a short week, because that tells you where teams are at. They're not really doing a lot of practicing this week. The emphasis is on rehabilitation and getting ready this week. And for the Falcons, same group as we discussed same group as we discussed on Monday. Bijan Robinson limited with a hamstring, Ray McCloud limited with an ankle, Caleb McGarry limited with a knee. 2 days in a row. That one's noteworthy. Remember, they had a chance to put him on injured reserve after the Chiefs game. Didn't do that. They put the other guy down, and I'm forgetting his name as we have this discussion here around the Falcons. Trying to think of what his name is. But Caleb McGarry back-to-back limiteds. It's the arrow pointed in the right direction. I think I could see a world in which they kind of take their time, especially on a short week, and say, wait until it's at least 75%. We know none of the guys play at 100%, but Caleb McGarry, we're paying attention to that one. Troy Anderson, second straight day with a DNP. Looks like it's going to be tough for him to get on the field. Another Falcons note. They signed Rashaan Evans to the practice squad. He could be elevated on game day. He started double-digit games for the team in 2022. If Anderson misses time, sounds like they've got their backup plan ready to go. But I have this question here, and you've seen it on the screen if you're watching us video-wise here on A&F Sports Tonight. for October 1st, 2024. More offensive questions. More offensive questions. Not just with the Braves. Oh, I have more offensive questions. This is a team that has a lot of skill position talent. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, who's been a great signing for the team, and I think he's played extremely. He's been the safety blanket for Kirk Cousins at times. You see the question that I posed on the screen here. Over under 1.5 touchdowns passing for Kirk Cousins this week against Tampa. This has not been a high-flying offense. This has not been an offense that puts up points at will. This has been a defensive-led football team through 4 weeks. 10 points in week 1. 21 points in week, or excuse me, 22 points in week 2. That was the game-winning drive in Philadelphia. So 10 points week 1, 22 in week 2, 17 in week 3, and 26 in week 4 against the Saints. That was their highest output so far this season, 26 points. And they didn't score an offensive touchdown in that game. It was a punt return touchdown, a muff punt that was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown of special teams. I think it was Cordero Hodge that scored in that one. And then the pick six, Troy Anderson. The rest of them were Younghoe Koo. He was 4 for 4, including the 58-yarder. Can the Falcons break 30 points in this one? Because in my opinion, that's what it might take. I mean, Baker Mayfield, and we can go look at what the Buccaneers' outputs have been so far this season. They score points. They have just as many offensive weapons as Kirk Cousins and company do. This is the Buccaneers' outputs. 37 in week 1 in a week 1 win over the Commanders. Far outpacing what the Falcons' high has been so far this year. 20 points in a win at Detroit. That's a heck of a win early in the year. Only 7 points against the Broncos. That's a confusing confusing result there. And then 33 in the win over the Eagles. So 33, 37, 20, and the outlier being 7. We know Tampa can score points. We know they're going to score touchdowns. We know Baker Mayfield is going to air it out. The national conversation around this game coming in is talking about his risk-taking. He's always trying to push the ball downfield. He's not taking the check downs. I saw a lot of breakdowns on social media today about that final drive for Atlanta, why there's a disconnect between Bijan and Kirk and trying to take just the simple throws that are allowed there. I don't foresee it. I think I'm taking the under in this one. I'd love to see what you all think in the chat on social media. Over under a touchdown and a half for Kirk. No push. Can't throw a half a touchdown. Can't throw a half. Because I think if he gets 2 passing touchdowns, we're talking about a team that scored more than 30 points. But that's not how the Falcons have been winning games this year. I mean, they've been a muddy it up, grit and grind. We're going to control clock. We're going to control game script. We're going to keep your offense on the sideline while we work. And we get first down. They haven't really been a big chunk offense this year. They've had chunk plays. I'm thinking about the Kyle Pitts 50-yard reception against the Chiefs. I think Darnell Mooney had a long touchdown in Philadelphia. So they've had chunk plays. They've shown the ability to do it, but just not consistently enough. I won't give an official prediction for this game. We're inching closer. It's already Tuesday evening, Tuesday dinner time, so it's almost prediction time for this game that's happening Thursday in about 48 hours from now. But I don't know. It depends, kind of similar to the Braves conversation we were having. Kind of depends on what Falcons offense you get. Are we getting a Kirk Cousins that's not moving around as well? Or are we getting a team that makes deep plays and stays ahead of the chains? I think that's the key to this one here on Thursday night. Let me know what you think as we look ahead to Falcons versus Buccaneers on Thursday night. Of course, we'll be there And we'll have the post-game highlights and reaction over on WANF, on linear TV, on cable, on your cable boxes, and we'd love to have y'all join us there. Plenty of Braves talk, plenty of Falcons talk. Let's go to college now. Story number 4. Let's go to college now. Let's go to college now, because this Georgia Tech football team has ridden the roller coaster so far this season. My goodness. You start off with the big win, the thrilling win, the all eyes on us win across the pond in Ireland, beating. We thought Florida State was something at that time. Maybe we were being bamboozled because it has not followed through on what their preseason ranking was. But now Tech is 3-2. They're 3-2. Brent Key, the Yellow Jackets head coach, talking with the media, and we'll play a little bit of this sound here as we round out our episode here on October 1st, talking about his team trying to find their identity. And I wish more coaches would talk honestly like that. Coaches try to not say much to the media. They try and keep everything close to the vest. They think that we're going to go and hand it directly to their opponent. But that's not the case. And I appreciate his honesty here, talking ahead of the Duke game about, our energy is there, our buy-in is there, our effort is there, but maybe the execution isn't yet. And they're not the only team. They're not the only team that should be saying that. Headed into, what is this, week 5, week 6, week 6 or week 7, depending on what your schedule is. Let's hear from Brent Key ahead of this matchup against Duke.
We're putting the best guys out there, the best guys that can help us win, creating versatility in the positions, increasing the depth by developing young guys. We'll continue to do that, and when guys are ready to go, they're ready to go. But look, no one goes out on the field and tries not to play well. I mean, no coach goes out and tries not to coach well in the game. Sometimes they line up and the other guy gets the best of them, and then that comes on us as coaches to get it corrected, get them improved. But it wasn't just the left side. I mean, there was across the board. We all. Everyone collectively in the game had things they did well and things they didn't do well. So we got to make improvements in all those areas.
And when you evaluate that offensive line, I mean, has it been missed executions or personnel driven in terms of some of those?
It's
everything.
There's everything. I think I said it after the game. It's been 2 months ago since that last game, but I can't hardly remember. No, it's what I said after the game was dead on. There's not one in particular thing. There's not one in particular person. There's extra guys we've got to account for in the box. That's schematic. All right. There's movement where we've got to account for and be able to handle movement up front. Loaded boxes. It's all encompassing in everything. And the evaluations were deep. They were. Look, I walk into the staff room right after the last game before we hit start the bye week. I challenge every coach, everyone on staff. And then I walk into the team meeting, challenge everyone on the team, all right, to self-assess. We do self-scout, but the biggest self-scout to do is to be able to self-assess and look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, this isn't working as good as I wanted it to. This isn't working as good as it used to work. And what adjustments have to be made to correct it.
There's been some issues with the field goal kicking team.
Like
what? What were you able to see when you watched the film? Was it mechanics?
Return for a touchdown. Again, it's all encompassing. I'm not going to say one person or one thing or one thing. It's everybody, and ultimately I'm responsible for it. So it'll be fixed.
Coach, you often talk about momentum gets sustained by what you do week to week in practice and how you prepare.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at results-wise, from where you guys were at in camp to now, how have you seen you guys progress as a team? What's your evaluation of that?
Yeah, by 4, 5, 6 games in the season, you really do know your team. You know what they're about. It's all kind of hypothetical going in before the season starts, but I do feel is if we know the team, we know them well. We know what they're good at, what they're deficient at, what we've got to improve on. Assessment to this point, probably have to say the same thing I told the team. Look, we're playing hard. This team plays hard, right? Are there certain instances, certain plays where you want somebody to play? Yes, there always will be. But the team plays hard, right? Playing hard and preparing the right way, right, gives you a chance to have success on Saturdays. It guarantees nothing. There's no guarantees just by coming in and practicing hard, preparing the right way, playing hard, right? And playing hard just gets you there. So now you don't play hard, you don't play smart, then you got zero chance. So the decision making is what we've got to improve on. Okay, that's the thing where you play hard, you're elevating the way you play. Look, like I said, everyone wants to win. They want to do everything to win. Well, then they're still doing your job, not trying to do more than your job. Being in the right position in those things where, as the stakes get higher, the emotions in games get higher, the intensity gets higher, conference games, versus undefeated teams or, ranked teams, really everyone you have left on the schedule. You've got to be able to keep those emotions in check while the intensity elevates, right? So playing hard, but level-headed decisions. It's crazy, there's not a player or coach in America that's ever, after a game, you're like, what did I do? Or what did he do? Or what just went on there? We've practiced that 100 times and it never happened like that. Well, it's because games are different. And that's why I say all the time, you want to elevate the practices to match what the games are. And that's been the big intentional thing that we've done the last 2 weeks is really put the focus and intent on every single play, that it is the most important play, elevating that mental intensity, that mental strain, all right, along with the physical strain on you to try to help the decision making that takes place.
You just heard from Tech head coach Brent Key as they preview a matchup against undefeated Duke. We will, of course, look ahead to that much more. But we're rounding out here on A&F Sports Tonight. Talk about what's on my mind here in the final minute or so. And I posted this on social media yesterday. Watching the Monday Night Football doubleheader yesterday, I believe it was Titans and Dolphins and Lions and someone else, Lions and Seahawks. Both really good games, both really exciting outcomes. But I can't help but notice, league-wide, we're 4 weeks into the National Football League, the attrition has already piled up so high with star players missing, Christian McCaffrey. The list goes on and on as far as star players that are missing time. Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown on the Chiefs, Falcons missing their offensive lineman, Caleb McGarry. We're talking about players just working through things. Yes, there's an element of that when it comes to professional sports that you're going to be playing through injury and that kind of thing. But when the NFL trying to continually push this 18-week two-bye system that we all think is coming down the pipe, I just wonder if that's the right thing. The league talks so much about player safety and wanting to be on forefront of all those things, and they've looked at all the numbers and they've crunched everything, and now they're wearing the Guardian cap, so that's safer. I just don't know if more football always equals better outcomes or the best case scenario. Like at some point we have to look in the mirror and just say, it's a little greedy here. It's a little much. I don't think that we really need an 18-week, another week of football considering where we are now with player safety and trying to get that right. That was A&F Sports Tonight. I would love to know what you think about that last thing there. Do you think that we need an extra game in the National Football League? Do you think that Kirk Cousins is going to throw over a touchdown and a half or under? I don't know. Appreciate you rocking with us here on A&F Sports Tonight. We're back at it tomorrow and every weekday here on the channel. We'll see you next time.